Hey, I'm trying a live stream here. We'll see how well this works out. Um, I'm Brian Fields, amateur radio call sign W9CR. I think a lot of you know me. I've been really involved in number of facets of amateur radio for almost the entirety of my life now. It would seem. Um, and recently, I've been involved ever since about 2016, now into 2016, in a little project called AllStarLink, which is for linking amateur radio repeaters together. And I am keeping an eye on my live chat here, so if anybody has anything to say, please ask me questions. Let me say hi. Anyways, so I am stepping back from that. I've been stepping back from that for a while, mainly due to just all kinds of issues. Um, and let me see if I can fix my chat here. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. Um, okay, that's better. I'm sorry. This is new to me. But basically, why I stepped away, and I wanted to present this in such a way that you can hear directly from me. There's no person between what I'm saying and what you're hearing. Little background: I got involved in AllStarLink 2016 timeframe and moved. Well, Jim passed the end of 2016, and a lot of what was running there was just not very good architecture. There was a lot of issues. Jim, while being a pretty good programmer, was not DevOps. So um, we we had a lot of stuff to kind of figure out and pull apart. Well, at the time there was one of the people was working with a lot of what Jim had put together, Steve Zingman, and for IRS. Uh, and I really pushed him to get an organization set up to handle some of this stuff with Jim. And we did. It's called AllStarLink Incorporated. I was one of the initial directors on it, and it was myself, Steve, and a guy by the name of Kevin Custer, W3, what was it, KCC or KKC? Um, and anyways, so we were running for a bit. We had a lot of these problems. I went through and I said, hey, we need to figure out the infrastructure now that we have our um, platform secure. We know what we need to do. Let's start pulling this back, because Jim put a lot of stuff out there that was donated from different people that we didn't really know about. Um, there was servers all over the place that, hey, Jim knows this guy, so he donated a server, and really the only place that any of this was in Jim's head. So I wanted to continue that. I thought it was a great idea to be able to get donated VMs and stuff from everywhere, and uh, we um, we kind of came up with an architecture to enable that. So, give us a couple arbitrary VMs in a location, and we're good to go. So, um, I went about thinking, how can we do this with what we have, which is essentially a very old version of Asterisk, scaling issues, um, and what we decided was a database layer to mediate everything, which works really well because we have a distributed database running over the internet, over IPsec. It's we're all doing stuff that we're told not to do. Hey, it's not designed to work like this. But when we actually research, there's a lot of people doing it. So That's what we ended up with. We ended up with an architecture that would allow us to say, hey, you want to donate some VMs? Cool. Here's what we need. Here's what we're expecting, which is very important as a nonprofit to set your expectations for donors out there, because you don't just want somebody that's going to donate something you may not necessarily be able to use. You need to understand what their commitment's going to be. We actually pulled in two other guys to start hosting some stuff. We had a location in Michigan and one in Chicago. And the cool thing was, these are all people that I knew primarily from HamWAN or associated projects, so we were all hosting in the 44-net IP space. So, we did all this stuff. We got it going. Actually reached out. We pulled in a couple people to do even development on the code, which was very important because Steve Zingman stepped away. He was no longer interested in the project, or he had his reasons. I don't know exactly what happened. He said he stepped away. So that's which is fine. And we sat down and said, okay, we have this very old server. How do we migrate away from that? And we developed a plan and moved towards it. There's a lot of stuff that is not necessarily complex, but there's a lot of little things that have to work for AllStarLink to work. IEX registration, DNS, and website stuff. So I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to set up an admin team. I want the admin team to be separate from our board of directors, and we need to get more people involved in the board of directors, because I was on the board. I got very frustrated with being on the board because we'd have board meetings, people wouldn't show up, or, well, I'm not really an expert in that, so I don't know what to do. Okay, we'll go research. Well, I don't have time for that. Then why are you on the board? I was very, very frustrated with that, because I've been involved in boards of organizations where it operates as a normal organization. Right off the bat, AllStarLink, we couldn't even get a quorum together to pass necessary things we needed to do to go to and achieve 501c3 status with the IRS. So we got this team together. We got stuff working. Things were going very well last year, and we had some issues specifically by the other group that's out here. They were going around saying they were going to sue people. That would be John David McGough, who has stolen the code from Jim Dixon, and closed sourced it and won't distribute the source code, and is a software pirate. Probably one of the worst things to ever happen in amateur radio. His how should I say, his despicable way that he went about it. So during this time, we had, I explained to our board what was going on. One of the board members, Tim Sawyer, WD6AWP, said he was resigning. He didn't want to be involved in any of this because it was going to touch his retirement. And I was like, well, hold on. We're an organized non-for-profit in the state of Florida. So long as you're acting within the non-for-profit, there's really nothing that can be done to you. I mean, there's, you're almost untouchable as a incorporated non-for-profit. So he still resigned. I was very frustrated at the time too. I said, look, fine, Tim's resigned. I'm out as soon as we can find another board member. I want to be done with this. I want to be out of this. And I had no interest in continuing on. I said, I'll host. I do the admin stuff, but you guys don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. I don't want to be involved in an organization at the board level like this. But in Florida, you have to have 3 people on a non-for-profit board to legally conduct business. So I wasn't going to step down until somebody else came along. We did go out and find another person to join, who said he was very familiar with Jim, had known him while he was alive. Seemed like a pretty decent person. That was Todd, who had just recently gotten his amateur radio call sign, and came with, hey, I operate a CLEC. I do all this voice over IP stuff. I'm a big user of Asterisk in my commercial capacity, and I'm very familiar with, the laws and things like that. And I said, you know what, that sounds like a great addition to the board. How wrong I was. Anyways, so I said, okay, we got somebody on the board, and I was unfortunately looking at it from my perspective, which was, good, I can get out of this now. So I got off the board, and it was just Todd in there, and he was, we had him, everything's good, I'm out. Well, very interestingly, Tim comes back, and what do you know, he's back on the board again now. So, I got to think maybe I was a little bit double-crossed there, who knows. There's a lot of shadiness happening inside the AllStarLink team at this time. But they were finally getting around to doing what needed to be done and starting to pass some of the resolutions that needed to be done to get 501c3, which is extraordinarily important for our needs as an organization. I said, okay, good. We're 501c3. We're great. Let's move towards this. And there was a bit of I should say passive-aggressive stuff that was happening at the time between some of the new board members and the admin team. And when we had instituted the admin team, it was set up as a meritocracy. And the admin team is responsible for doing all the technical aspects of AllStarLink, any of the server-side stuff. Figure out an architecture, vote on it, move on. May the best idea win. And we went back and forth with the board over several things, and I had, I think the thing that really put it together for me is I had done some testing. We had finally identified who was providing the phone portal dial-in number, and he said, oh, hey, that's great. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about Jim passing. I said, well, I'm trying to get the other part of this setup, which was like 2 or 3 different phone portal servers in a few different areas. So if one of them goes down, it just hunts over. So this gentleman actually set up a brand new phone portal just for testing, or dial-in address, SIP address termination for testing. So we set it up, and I started messing around with it. And I put out a little thing. I said, hey, try this other phone number to go test your, to test the new phone portal running under new version of Asterisk under 1.8. And I had no less than 3 different phone calls for almost an hour each from different board members wanting to know why I went and changed the phone number for the phone portal without informing them or getting their permission. These are people that had no concept how the phone portal operates, no concept that this was a test setup. And I don't think had ever used the phone portal, but were extraordinarily interested in the fact that I went and made a change to the phone portal, which could be further from the truth. We set up a test instance and tested it. So, anyways, it's just one of those things. And around the same time, we had the gentleman that was donating servers from the Michigan data center, which is a great data center. It was, I want to say, 10 milliseconds away from Chicago. It was about 25 milliseconds away from the Tampa facility. And when you're running a distributed database, everything has to be in lockstep, so you don't want to have a large amount of latency. And so anyways, we did that, and he had some issues with the way this was handled. And he said, hey, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm sick of this. You guys aren't treating people with respect. I really don't want to be part of this. And we were able to talk him back and say, well, hold on. This is going to hurt the admin team. The people you care about here, not so much necessarily the board of AllStarLink. And I thought that was a win, and we kept that online. However, there were just a number of other things. A lot of I have to say, on Tim's part, a lot of passive aggressive stuff that happened. I I tried to do and set up processes, and especially set up our accounts for things like DNS names, our accounts for reverse DNS, things like that. I'm talking the domain names themselves at the registrar were set up in a separate account, things of that nature. Um, and do that right, as you should with a small organization or any organization. It should be separate from my own personal stuff. Um, we actually got and purchased our organization purchased for AllStarLink here a server just to co-locate in one of our racks in Tampa. And it was a great uh, addition, so that we could take all these different services we had running on different VMs, put them on a single server. We first migrated stats. We migrated a whole bunch of other stuff as well, and that was that was a lot of work. Nobody understood stats, and so let me swivel over here. So without anybody really understanding this, we came in, we wrote documentation, we figured out what was going wrong, and I like to say that was some of the fun that we had figuring this out. But all this stuff with the board still continued, and finally, our person that was providing services in Michigan said, "Hey, you know what? You guys are not being very respectful to what I'm providing." Nobody had ever reached out to him from the board to maintain that level of, how would you say, that level of engagement, I think is probably the best word. Because normally you want your board in an organization to reach out and engage with your people that are donating substantial portions. And I got to say, the donation of these servers was in the several $100s per month. Same thing with what we donated here in Tampa, and with the guys in Chicago donated as well. So this went back and forth for a little bit, and there was a real push at this time for the board to start becoming very, very involved in these technical discussions that they really did not know anything about. The people on the board are, if you talk to them, Pete is totally non-technical. It was actually kind of funny. We went to Todd, and who's again a CLEC, owns a phone company. Said, "Hey, can we get a couple SIP trunks?" Well, I don't know how to set that up. Really? You're a CLEC? The hell's wrong with you? Anyways, so it's just this typical BS. The other big thing that came up at this time was the what do we say, the community stuff. We started to identify a number of things that had to be improved before we could move off of our main server. Okay, we'll call it SEAL. And this started a project started a lot of projects that we considered to be kind of, at least in the admin team, bike shedding. What people, let's set up this thing and move away from the email list. Well, the email list is well understood and works and functions and is reliable. Oh, well, we want to do this. Okay, well, what value does it add? Well, we want to do this. Okay, well, hey, admin team has a few requirements if you want to do this. Number one we want to have is not single sign-on, but common username and password. So your AllStarLink username and password migrates across everything. That was something we said for any new service we do, we're going to have a single username and password that's going to work on it. And unfortunately, that never got implemented. The two other things we asked for never got implemented, and we got to push this into production now. That ruffled feathers. That was seen as a very passive-aggressive sort of move. And we had long technical discussions why this was necessary. Hey, we can't run it on another server. We can't do this. And who the fuck is this asking about ham VoIP guys? Fuck ham VoIP. Fuck John David Mago. And fuck those people. If you use ham VoIP, you are ultimately contributing to the worst raping of amateur radio software that the world has ever seen. Go fuck yourself if you use ham VoIP. What the fuck's wrong with you people? I mean, this is why nobody writes software for amateur radio. Go fuck yourself, seriously. I don't have time for that. The appropriate response there is go fuck yourself. So let's go work with somebody that has pissed over and pissed off all of our contributors, that has pissed off and has pissed on the way that we develop software, and has totally rejected any notion of working together. The man is a parasite. So, well, him and his company, Innet Tech or whatever the fuck it is, fuck him. I have no time for people like that. Anyways, so this went into production. This community bullshit went into production. And it's, it didn't go well because none of the integration was there. None of the back and forth email was there. We wanted to integrate it with the list server so that we could take stuff from the list server and have communications follow on both. We didn't want to have a splitting of two different camps where, okay, these are the people that understand a web GUI, these are the people that understand email. And, generally you find the signal-to-noise ratio to be much higher on a web-based form. The other major problem with a web-based forum is it allows people to come in and edit it and ban people and do all kinds of, bullshit like that. The nice thing about email is it's there. You can tell if somebody's messed with it or not. In a web forum, you just don't know that. You can have anybody with an admin can get in there and change what anybody says. It is a real problem with web forums. Some of the larger forums like that, especially QRZ, one only needs to go back and look at what happened during the Ham Radio Deluxe fiasco with the QRZ forums. That's case in point for it. So, anyways, our hold on a second here. Our web-based forum that they wanted to launch got launched. None of this stuff worked. I got in and I said, you know what, hey guys, I'm out. I don't want to be involved in this because there's this push to take over everything technical. This isn't what we signed up for. This isn't what I brought people into the project expecting to have. So I got out. I think the other thing I'll mention around the same time is there was this push for this NXX node development so that we could get into the 50,000 node range, and then also somebody could come in and say, oh, hey, I've node 2003. Well, I can make it node 2003 0 through 9 or whatever if I need more node numbers. So we basically have unlimited node numbers now. But I wanted to work with Tim on that. He said, hey, I was going to take point, work on it as a collaborative effort to get a standard written for how it should work. Tim had absolutely no interest in doing any of that. Tim went and just decided to, write his own thing as a PDF. Said, well, hey, I did the standard. Okay, well, it's a PDF. How am I supposed to edit this and comment on it and so forth? Oh, well, it's a standard. I said, well, yes, but we're writing this together. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to write it his own way and fuck everybody else that disagreed. That's not an open organization. That's not how you do things in open source. It's not how you do things in, a standards organization either. So, at this time, as I was going to say, we lost the FNT site, the Michigan site. And I I said, you know what, I'm stepping back from the admin stuff, and I wrote an email to the admin list because every time somebody from the board talked to anybody on the admin team, it was in a very condescending manner. I had numerous conversations with Todd Lesser, KM6RPT, who's a board member. They were, well, just totally talking down to me, condescending as fuck, and I have no interest in that. I'm a volunteer here. You know what? Fine, I'll provide server hosting. That's it. Um, and FNT was pulled, and with 2 weeks' notice, that was the end of that. Luckily, we had a resiliency between Tampa and the Chicago facility. I actually did some help at this time to get a third site turned up in Seattle. Again, I didn't do too much. That was all on our main developer doing a lot of that, and he did an excellent job on that. And so I saw the way that was being treated now. And on top of it, the board went through and just said, oh, well, hey, we got these other people now that are going to be on the tech committee too. Didn't get them involved in the tech committee. Didn't have them join Slack. Didn't have anybody actually know them or vet them. Just said, oh, well, these are going to be the people we're going to talk to now. That's not the way that the tech committee or admin committee works. They've changed that. So I said, I got no desire to be involved in this. Good luck. And this was at the same time too. We had about a 45-day outage of the Chicago facility, which was, quite frankly, should have been handled a lot better than it was. I mean, a 45-day outage is huge, and Tampa maintained itself during that time along with Seattle. Everything worked. And so when I had said I wanted to get out of this with the AllStarLink admin team taking this over, one of my desires was to still, hey, I'll maintain the server, that's fine. If anything happens there, I don't have an issue with that. Well, we had one of the other people in our colo got a small DDoS for about 30 minutes. And the way that works is it basically saturates my uplink, which is it's a gig uplink. So with that saturated, it does affect services in the Tampa facility. Tampa dropped out, and the other two data centers took over. Well, that was used as a cause. Oh, well, Tampa's not reliable. No, Tampa's, quite frankly, has the best uptime anywhere else because it's run by people that know what the fuck they're doing. There's that sort of stuff got dealt with very, very quickly. But, oh no, well, Tampa's not reliable. There's a 45-day outage in Chicago, but let's not talk about that. And that's strictly on the head of Mike, who has just stepped up to be just an absolute bull in a china shop, total idiot when it comes to this stuff. So I really wish we had not brought him into the organization. With all this happening, the desire to move AllStarLink to be a commercial project now, which is not something I want to donate time to, and just this powerful ignorance from the board of how anything actually works. But hey, we got to simplify it, and let's just move it in the cloud. Well, okay, how's that going to happen? Well, I just make it happen. So I think ASL, AllStarLink as an organization, is fucked. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do to fix it. So with that and the most recent stuff that unfortunately they started with me, I told them, I said, hey, I was going to give them to the end of the month, to end of, December, to get their stuff off our servers. In conjunction with some of the other people in the admin team, I said, hey, here's a draft of what I'm going to send out. And they said, hell, why are you giving them more time than what the Michigan data center gave them? and hey, use this as a time frame. I said, okay, so I used it as a time frame. So that's why the time frame is what it is. I was intending to go to the 31st. But in light of just the absolute ignorance that has transpired inside AllStarLink, I mean, we have board members that don't understand how DNS works, and it works, and they fuck with it. So, anyways, this pissing off of the main donors to the project is huge and can't be understated. There's one thing that a board should do. It's make certain that the donors are happy and are going to continue to donate. Make certain that you have the income stream coming in to support the nonprofit, fundraise, if you will. The board has no interest in doing that. They want to play their games. They want to do their stuff. So I think AllStarLink is, as an organization, is done. And that was my reason for pulling it. It was the constant barrage of insults that were hurled upon the admin team. The people that had neither the training or really cognitive ability to understand what was happening, asking and pestering people on the admin team. I mean, I don't have time to go back and explain the last 25 years of open source software and what the hell that actually means. We're not going to sign a contributors agreement that grants AllStarLink, total copyright to our code, and then being told, oh, well, we can do this. That's not going to happen. So that's why I gave my notice. I plan to still donate services to the greater community. There'll be some stuff to be able to do VMs and stuff if you need stuff in Hamnet. I'm going to figure out a way to make that happen. But, you tie my hands and put a gun to my head, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to maintain that relationship forever. So hopefully they'll figure it out, but I really would caution people from getting involved with AllStarLink, and especially donating money to AllStarLink. Ask them what's happening. I've been told many times, oh, we're getting more people on the board, we're going to do this, we're going to grow this organization. And no, there's this huge desire to run like a typical ham radio organization and keep everything a big fucking secret. And we went and said, hey, we're supposed to have open board meetings. Okay, well, that lasted about a week and a half, and then, oh, well, that's a board meeting, we don't have to talk about that with you. Yeah, okay. I like how nobody's ever present in Slack except to bitch at the technical committee members. So that's my view on it. Let's see if I got any questions here. Anyways. So yeah, nothing of real interest there. But that's why I pulled away from it, and why I cut supporting it, and why I'm unfortunately soured on the whole thing. And it's enough to get you sick of ham radio too. So, anyways, don't give money to AllStarLink till they change their tune. I wouldn't donate stuff to them either. And fork the code, do something with it. It's GNU GPL code. That's the cool thing about it. And if anybody does need some space to put a VM or something like that, I got a pretty decent box that's available for it, and I'm happy to donate some space for amateur radio projects if needed. Just don't don't insult me if you're going to do that. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, I guess. So. I'm pretty good at doing that. Bite the hand that feeds me. Call me an asshole once in a while. I don't take it personally. I don't mind, but I do get a little ticked off when it's I'm being painted as kind of the bad actor here, and nobody wants to look at the other side of the equation. But anyways, that's a little after midnight here, so I'm gonna hit the bed, and hopefully y'all can look at this and marinate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always happy to talk about it, and we'll try to be as honest as I can in answering any questions. And as you see, I don't really hold back. So 73s. This is Brian Fields, amateur radio call sign W9CR.